Well, as the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland winds down, it's time to perhaps reflect on the impact of the India story this time around. We've seen a fairly sizable Indian presence. Joining us now, the MD of Tata Steel, Mr. TV Narendran. Thanks very much, sir, for being with us. There have been a couple of problems globally, countries around the world. Inflation has been a problem, fuel has been a problem, fuel inflation, food security has been a problem. Has that been a factor when you've spoken to others and those people have looked at India? Do they consider those factors as potentially being dangerous for the Indian economy?
Absolutely. I think there's a concern across the world that they need to de-risk supply chains.
Right.
And whether it's for food, whether it's for commodities, whether it's for anything else, advanced manufactured products. So I think India is coming up at the right time as not only a great source but also a great market.
Right.
And I think there's a great interest in India. You can see that on the promenade here as well. And that's good. I think India's probably come through the pandemic also reasonably well in terms of the economic recovery and also its ability to vaccinate a lot of people. So in many ways, there are a lot of positive vibes about India.
Yeah. So inflation is at 8%, very high. Bank savings rates are now at 5%. The markets have been in the red. The rupee is in a bad way right now. And I know these are negative aspects of where the India story is, but is this very significant as we consider the overall picture?
So what's happening is, for a change, the inflation in India is lower than it is in some of the other richer countries.
Sure.
So if you look at the UK or the US, it's quite high there as well. So relatively 8%, yes, is high, but everywhere else also it's high. Of course, it hurts us more because we are a poorer country in that sense of the term.
Right.
But I think the medium and long-term potential of India as a market, the younger demographic, the digitization of the economy in some sense, and the number of unicorns that have come in, all these are very positive stories. So I think, for many of those reasons, people are still interested to invest in India. And honestly, there are very few other large markets available today for investments. And I think India, of course, needs to continue to do the good work. I think that's important.
Let's talk about Tata Steel briefly, a real driver of the Indian economy. Where do you see the economy from a steel perspective coming out of the pandemic?
So it was recovering quite well, simply because of the fact that you had a lot of government focus on infrastructure, which is steel intensive. You had the commercial vehicles business coming out of doldrums after 3 or 4 years. They are also a big consumer of steel and a big driver of sentiment. You have a lot of investments happening in supply chains in India, on warehousing, etc., driving on e-commerce and things like that. So we were seeing the demand grow. Not only did it recover to pre-pandemic levels, it's grown beyond pandemic levels.
Right.
So that's a positive for the industry. I think there was a lot of concern about high commodity prices. Obviously, the government has taken some steps just now, which is going to certainly cool off steel prices in India. So in the short term, there is pain for us, but I think in the medium to long term, if the focus on growth is there in India, we'll certainly do well in that context.
In terms of bringing down inflation, fuel inflation, the government has announced a cut in excise rates for diesel and petrol. How important is this, considering the impact that we've seen over the last
inflation always hurts the poor more than anyone else, and I think when fuel rates are cut, it certainly benefits millions of people who, for whom it forms a significant part of their household budgets. If you notice, in the last 6-7 months, consumption had not really picked up after the pandemic, right? And one of the reasons why household budgets were busted because of medical expenditure, shrinkage of salaries, jobs in some sense going out of the services sector in a big way. So I think all this, any move to bring down fuel rates, bring down food, cost of food, etc., is really going to help the lower income sections of society who suffer the most in the pandemic.
Sure. Lovely speaking to you.
Nice speaking to you,
Thank you
Vishnu.
very much. Thanks very much. Thanks.